Prior to the 2022 season, the Toronto Blue Jays were all people could talk about. With an amazing young core of talent and a great pitching rotation, the Blue Jays had all the hype in the world. It was clear what the goal was that year: win the World Series. So what went wrong with this team? In this video, I'll break down all the issues with the 2022 Blue Jays and what might come next for them in 2023 and beyond. Coming off of a huge offseason in 2022, the Blue Jays seemingly had 6 solid starters. Topping the rotation were 3 great pitchers in Jose Berrios, Alek Manoah, and newly acquired Kevin Gausman. Then there was Hyunjin Ryu, who was looking for a bounce-back year, and breakout candidate Yusei Kikuchi. Ross Stripling seemed like a solid 6th starter if he was needed. The issue with the rotation was that there was very little pitching depth in the Blue Jays system. The next pitcher who could be called up would be Nate Pearson, who couldn't seem to stay healthy, and going out to trade for a good starter would be too expensive. This came back to bite the Blue Jays. While the Jays did get good performances from Ross Stripling and Maximo Castillo, and a Cy Young quality year from Alek Manoah, they didn't have enough depth to sustain a good rotation. Hyunjin Ryu was the first to go, with a Tommy John surgery that would knock him out for the rest of the year. Yusei Kikuchi pitched himself out of the rotation and into the bullpen. Jose Berrios' year was extremely inconsistent, and at that point, they had no replacements to go to. The Jays started sending out pitchers like Casey Lawrence and Mitch White to eat up innings. Bullpen days became more and more frequent. Even when the Jays' offense scored 5 to 6 runs, they couldn't seem to win. The Jays starters collectively put up an ERA of 3.98, with only 3 starters pitching more than 30 games. Theoretically, the Blue Jays bullpen was solid in 2022. Names like Adam Cimber, Jordan Romano, Jimmy Garcia, and Tim Mayza would top the list, with a few depth options like David Phelps and Trevor Richards. This was a solid core, but there are a few issues here. First off, the Jays again had no depth in their system. When injuries and bad performances in the bullpen inevitably occurred, the Blue Jays had no one to turn to. They had a few good relievers in their minor league system like Adrian Hernandez and Yosver Zulueta, but none of them were really MLB ready yet. Instead, the Blue Jays had to acquire new arms in the trade market. Secondly, the Blue Jays bullpen didn't have lights-out stuff. Outside of Jordan Romano and maybe Jimmy Garcia, the Blue Jays didn't really have any good pitchers with blazing fastballs or wicked sliders. Sure, they had guys that could mix it up and keep you on your toes, like Adam Cimber or Trevor Richards, and they had reliable arms that could eat innings and get outs, like David Phelps and Casey Lawrence. But if you're trying to win a World Series, you need wipeout stuff from your bullpen. You need more Jordan Romanos. Don't get me wrong, the Blue Jays offense was really good in 2022. Averaging an OPS of 760, the Blue Jays were in fact one of the best hitting teams in the AL. I'm just here to remind you that the Jays offense could have been a lot better. If you look at the Blue Jays' top 4 hitters in their lineup, you might be a bit underwhelmed. George Springer's season was once again riddled with injuries. Bo Bichette was solid, but nothing compared to his previous years. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was streaky throughout the season, ending with an OPS of only 819, and Teoscar Hernandez had a disappointing year after coming off an injury early in the season. The top 4 players in the Blue Jays lineup severely underperformed. Just think about how much better this offense would be if these 4 players played to their potential. It would be 4 superstar hitters, followed by more solid middle-of-the-order bats in Lourdes Gurriel Jr., Alejandro Kirk, Matt Chapman, and more. The lineup would be unstoppable. The offseason is already well underway, and the Blue Jays wasted no time in making moves, as they've already traded some hitting in Teoscar Hernandez for some young pitching in Eric Swanson and Adam Macko. So let's talk about what they should do from here on out. Now here's where things get tricky. There are clearly quite a few issues and holes in this Blue Jays team, and it feels like if Ross Atkins can patch up these holes in the offseason, the Jays would be serious contenders for the World Series in 2023. But there are other things to worry about as well. While it may be tempting to go out and sign one more really good starter or grab 2 or 3 more good bullpen pieces, we have to address contract extensions first. It won't be much longer before Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette are looking for big contracts with other teams. If we want to hold on to these players for the long haul, we have to extend their contracts soon. Ross Atkins is faced with a choice. The Jays are already spending close to $180 million on their players per year. Atkins can either spend what's left on his budget on a big name in free agency, or he can extend Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette, but he probably doesn't have enough money to do both. So should the Jays go for it all in 2023, or should they play it safe and try to hold on to their key players? There are arguments to be made on both sides. On the one hand, the Blue Jays have most of their players next year, so if they can focus on adding to their roster and filling the holes in their team, they have a shot at the World Series. Plus, if they have enough money to go out and buy yet another star to add onto this already impressive team, they should go for it. On the other hand, Vlad Jr. and Bo Bichette both had poor seasons in 2022, so they would probably ask for less money in a contract extension deal. If there's a time to extend them, now would be that time.